This is the first Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra Worldtimer in green color to be delivered in Hong Kong. And yes, it enters my collection. Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. I was quite lucky yesterday to visit the Omega boutique in Hong Kong as the now legendary Amanda was waiting for the visit of my friends Simon and Josh to discover the brand new James Bond 60th anniversary Seamaster, about which we'll talk in the next video. And I got there a bit early, and she said she had something else to show. And she pulled out this one. I knew it was going to be this Worldtimer announced not long ago. And I have to say, the blue version was always on the back of my mind. It just never made it to the top of my priority list, I suppose, because it is a fairly imposing watch, which I've made my peace with. I think you have to take it as a showpiece kind of watch, a bit like Richard Mille would be. When I saw the first renderings of the green on steel and the sort of black and sand color on titanium, I was not really impressed. I thought, yeah, maybe I'll have to see it in the metal. And when I saw them in the metal, I have to say, they were great. The bracelet version was already spoken for, but to be honest, the bracelet adds to this already big watch at 43 millimeters even more weight and overall look of a large watch, a lot of mass, and didn't look good actually, the green and steel mix on my skin tone. It actually looked fantastic on Josh's much larger 18 centimeter wrist than my 17 centimeter wrist, and matched his skin tone perfectly. But it was already spoken for, and as you know, everybody says always buy the bracelet version and later on get the strap. But to be honest, if you're never going to wear the bracelet and if you have to wait for the strap for months and have that extra cost, I'm not sure it always applies, especially not in this case. Anyway, the other version, the titanium, was already spoken for as well, and I liked it a lot. But this one was the one that spoke to me the most, and luckily, nobody had been allocated this watch yet. The allocation process is very fair at Omega, depends on, of course, you asking and your spending history. So I had a quick inner chat with myself, and yes, it is quite an expensive watch, 84,000 Hong Kong dollar. It is over 10,000 euros, 10,000 US, but I thought it is worth it. One detail I didn't even know is that the handset and the indices are made of moonshine gold, 18 karat. And that was really the little push over the cliff I needed. But I had made up my mind even before knowing that. So let's step back a little bit and talk about the features of the watch. It's a 43 millimeter case by about 14.1 millimeter, AR coating on both sides of the lightly domed sapphire crystal. The lug to lug is 50 millimeters only, I want to say, so actually wears fairly fine on the wrist, not as big as you would think, and there's not much outcrop when you add this strap. Now, one detail that I really love, and I think Omega really did a fantastic job of adding this, is that sort of center link added, which breaks up the green on green color and really looks fantastic along with the case. I think it's a fantastic detail, and I imagine that all that green would have been a bit much, especially since it's very difficult to match the strap to the bezel color, which is here in ceramic, and the green is very dark and I think beautiful shade of green. I sometimes don't like the mix of green with steel, but here works wonderfully. Since we talked about the strap, here we have a sort of woven pattern with a contrasting stitching of great effect, and another great detail. And Omega, they really sweat the details. They didn't have to do it, but previously those straps could really trap a bit of moisture against your wrist and feel uncomfortable, even cause a little rash. They've added little bumps on the inside, which is very soft, very, very soft. Doesn't feel like rubber at all. So you have a bit of relief for sweat, which will be welcome. The strap, as you can see, is 21 millimeters of width. And by now you know probably well this fold over clasp. You can either push it, but if you want to be really stealth, you can just push, drop it, and it's very quiet, very steady. You need to push on both sides to reopen it. The excess goes on the inside. My wrist is 17 centimeters and I could wear it at the last point. So I'm not sure what kind of wrist would need so much strap. And I hope that they have a shorter version because the more you have material, the harder it is to close. You're gonna have to push it in, and yeah, it makes the watch sit a bit further from the wrist. But it's fine. I just think that if you have a pretty small wrist, you might run into problems with this, or for example with the mesh bracelet of the new James Bond watch. The crown, sort of a conical shape, bit of a negative because it's a bit difficult to grip and screw back in. You have the Omega logo on it. Now the dial. I've already mentioned the presence of moonshine gold on the hands, which are the typical Aqua Terra hands with loom, which I always complained about, and it's the one thing I didn't like about my previous Aqua Terra Seamaster is that the loom on the hour hand doesn't take much space, so it is visible at night, but there's not much real estate used by it. And likewise, there is no loom on the long portion of the minute hand. So sometimes, like here, when it passes over index, which is loomed as well, it's almost difficult to make it out at all. There's a bit of loom on the second hand as well. The counter balance here sometimes will completely almost obscure the loom of the hour hand. Small niggle here, but I think it's worth mentioning. The indices, as you can see, keep that 3D aspect that we are become accustomed to with the Aqua Terra line, and they're very beautiful, very large. So there's quite a bit of that 18 karat moonshine gold. And you see the printing of all the wording and the logo is done in a matching color, which is a great touch. Now I will pretend that the laser ablation on titanium at the center of the dial, the showpiece of this watch, also contains moonshine gold, but I think most of it, the coloration normally is realized through a chemical reaction between the laser and the titanium, but perhaps in this case, because there's very little color, but you get all the interesting depth of it, like on the blue version, and interesting graining also on the ocean side. I will pretend that this is moonshine gold, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. So at the center you have the Worldtimer indications, the nighttime, the daytime. I'm in the Beijing time zone, so this Worldtimer works quite differently from the other Worldtimers from, for example, Patek, or my favorite Worldtimer, the Luc Chopard, which I have here to put in contrast. I think it has everything I love and I wanted in a Worldtimer, except of course the water resistance and magnetic resistance, which is where this watch here takes over. And of course, the visual is quite more impressive and sportier. The watch has 150 meters of water resistance and is resistant to 15,000 Gauss, as you know. But yeah, the cities here don't turn, only the center will turn. So my location, which is a Beijing time zone, unfortunately not Hong Kong anymore on it, will always stay there, and it's the center here, a portion that will rotate. I mean, just the hour disk, not the Earth, of course. And so you can adjust that with the crown. I'll show you in a minute. By the way, the watch is running perfectly on time. I just checked against against a known reference. London UTC or GMT reference is in red, and of course, instead of Paris, or I wish it was Brussels, we have the city of Omega Bienne. The date is really well done here. You notice that the date window is slightly rounded there on the side, which is a very cool touch. Again, another cool detail, and there's even a little step within it. It's discreet, it's well done, one of the best date windows I've ever seen. And the famous teak deck motif that used to be vertical and horizontal and disappeared from the Aqua Terra lines is here. But here it represents a bit more the meridians or the 24-hour lines, as it's been, it looks like it goes around the planet, and it's a great look, great color for the dial. I think it's beautiful green, not too much of it, great contrast with the moonshine gold and sort of beige off-white color of the rest. And thank God there is no full lume on this watch. Just a sumptuous piece. Now the caliber is the 8938. As you can see, barrel 2, barrel 1, so 2 barrels here to power the watch for 60 hours on a single. When fully wound, you have the now classic beautiful machine, perhaps, but still wonderful arabesque waves on it instead of Côte de Genève. So we can call this the Côte of Bienne. The nice polishing of the screws and around the screws. It's a lovely movement architecture. So you have a full balance bridge, free sprung balance with a silicone hairspring. So yes, you have that incredible anti-magnetic property for this METAS certified movement that won't let you down when you need it. The case back is screwed down. It is not a Naiad screw down, so it might not align perfectly vertically. And I guess the last thing I need to show you is how the watch is operated. So you unscrew the crown. If the watch has run out of power, you can wind it. It is very smooth, very silent. When it reaches the 12, to set the time precisely, you pull out the crown. As you can see, the balance has stopped. The balance, by the way, runs at 3.5 Hertz, 25,200 oscillations, vibrations per hour, which has been deemed the ideal speed for the coaxial escapement. So you have some high horology, yes, in this watch. So you set your time. So here in Beijing, in Hong Kong, it is 12 past 9. So I'll put it on 13. And the one thing now that this reminds me of is that you don't have any indication between from 5 minutes to the next 5 minutes. Yes, you have something in the middle there, so that would be 7.5 minutes. But that's about it. So you're going to have to eyeball it. And I know that's going to drive some people crazy. They could have put And I'm sure they've maybe tested it and didn't like the look of it. It became too busy. They could have put a minute track, but there it's not there. So let's just say we want to set it to 9:15. It's going to be easier for the demonstration. There you go. You put it on 9:15. Wait for the time to get there. Of course, you have to put it in the morning. And then when it gets to 9:15, you re-engage. Having set your local time properly, you can now set the time where you are. So let's say I've set my, it doesn't matter really where you are when you set the time. And then when you turn this, you can change the time if you travel in 1 hour increments, and this is how you change the date. You can go back to the 29 and then go back to the 30th. Today is the 31st. You see when I pass the midnight, so I put it at 9 o'clock, and everything else will be coordinated, and you can just push back and then screw back the crown. Don't forget to have the full water resistance of 150 meters. So in Rio, it is just past 10 o'clock in the evening. Another thing that the minute track that is missing from this watch, and this is why I love this one so much, is that as you can see here, we have the indication of the daylight savings, which is absent here. And that is very unfortunate. So right now, half of this world time indication is actually incorrect in New York. It is not 8 o'clock in the evening, it is 9 o'clock in the evening. So you're gonna have to maybe use your phone to check where there is actual daylight savings time. They don't have it in Tokyo, I believe, so it is just 15. So the minutes, you read the minutes, 15 past 10 in Tokyo. And in Sydney, it will be correct because now on that side of the world, it is a winter time starting, while in the summertime, so our winter, Sydney will be the wrong time. They will have their daylight savings. So a bit complicated, and I wish that indication was there. Omega, I think that's an oversight. But yes, it would add a bit more busyness to something that's already very busy. Last thing I will mention is that this vision of the world might be very weird for you. I think everybody gets excited about the watch and then they really look at it and then wonder, wait, what am I looking at? You're looking at the world seen from the North Pole, and this is the northern hemisphere. So you can actually barely make out where Hong Kong is over here. And it is very accurate. So if you draw a line from the center of the dial to say Moscow, where it is 4 or maybe 5 a.m. Moscow will be exactly on that line, and the same for everything. So Rio will be somewhere here. If you're in America, many of you are in the States. Let's see the cities that you can enjoy. Puerto Rico, of course, part of the USA. New York, as you can see here, the reverse from the middle, the writing. So then you have Chicago, Denver, LA, and weirdly, it says Alaska instead of I guess the lesser known main city of Alaska, and I forgot the name. So there you go. It goes to show. But yeah, it says Alaska, while everything else, I believe, is an actual city. So a bit of a weird thing there on this Worldtimer. Actually, is it the same here as well? No, here they have La Paz. What uses Anchorage. See little differences. Anchorage, and yeah, bizarrely it says Alaska. Maybe because of the Alaska project Speedmaster. I think it's a nod to that from Omega. So Omega have their own language, and finally you have the Seamaster denomination there, right in the middle of the ocean. Most of the cities actually are right in the ocean. So there you go, guys. I hope you've appreciated it. This almost worldwide exclusive in-person discovery of an owner's from an owner's perspective. Uh, I was a bit unsure about the watch, but now that I have it, I really enjoy it. And this morning, especially when I woke up, I thought, wow, what a cool looking piece. I did well adding it to the collection. At least I wanted to experience it more than just at the boutique. And this is how it wears on my wrist, which used to be 17 centimeters. I've lost some weight, so maybe maybe it's a bit less than that now. But yeah, the lug to lug 50 millimeters is just about right. Doesn't test the limit of my wrist. I can wear this. It's a bit of a showpiece, as I said, and the strap version will wear much smaller, and of course reduces the weight to 120 grams, which is also great, and really feels really good. Of course, the titanium version will feel even lighter, maybe almost too light for some people. I think this is the sweet spot, and it's a great looking watch. And I'm looking forward to reading your comments about this one. Bye bye, guys, and thanks again to Amanda at Omega. Always a fun time visiting the Omega boutiques all around the world, and especially here in Hong Kong. Bye bye, guys.